Hey guys, it's Miharu, and for Valentine's Day this year, I'm gonna be looking at all of Ratchet's canon and/or perceived love interests and determining who would be best for him. My final judgment will be based on the character's significance in their respective games, as well as how they interact with Ratchet. Also, a couple of ground rules before we start. 1. Females only. Sorry to those of you who ship Ratchet with Clank or Quark. And 2, this is not a general waifu tier list, so not every girl Ratchet has spoken to or looked at will be on here. I'd also like to add that, to make this a little easier, I'll only be looking at the games and not the comics. Without further ado, let's go. First up, we have Angela Cross. Making her debut in Going Commando, Angela was the first female Lombax introduced in the series. Or was she? Yeah, it was and still is a hotly debated topic as to whether or not she's a real Lombax, as she looks very different from Ratchet, and it's never actually brought up in the game. A former geneticist for Megacorp, she was intelligent and resourceful, but also very clumsy, even when under the guise of the unknown thief. Initially an adversary of the duo, she later befriended Ratchet and Clank in order to stop Megacorp from mass-producing the killer protopets. Her current whereabouts after a cameo in Up Your Arsenal are unknown.
Ratchet was calling you something quite different.
Oh, was he now?
I was never sure what that was supposed to mean, but I wouldn't exactly say that Ratchet shows an immediate interest in Angela upon meeting her. However, his attitude quickly changes after she gets captured by Thugs for Less, which prompts him to say this.
And we have to rescue her from the thugs.
Agreed. We need that answer.
And we have to protect her.
Though being ready to leave her imprisoned after defeating the Thugs for Less leader seems to contradict that statement. Despite that, Ratchet's actions overall indicate he feels responsible for Angela's safety, most likely due to her aforementioned clumsy nature. The forehead kiss after the final boss fight, and subsequent hangout at the apartment tell me this is more of a one-sided thing. Like, he thinks she's cute, but she probably sees him as a little brother. Now let's tally it up. First, her role, aka how important she was to the main plot. I'm gonna give her 4 points, as without her expertise, Ratchet and Clank would not have gotten very far, and wouldn't have even known they were working for the villain. For chemistry, she gets a 3. I like her interactions with Ratchet overall, but they're not romantic. Next up is Sasha Phyronix from Up Your Arsenal. The President's daughter, captain of the Starship Phoenix, and at one point, mayor of Metropolis. Though delegated to a simple support role, Sasha played an important part in the battle against Dr. Nefarious. Even after relinquishing control of the Phoenix to Quark at the request of her father, she remained loyal and focused on the task at hand, providing Ratchet and Clank with crucial information every step of the way. She even returned briefly in Deadlocked, warning Ratchet, Clank, and Al about Dreadzone before they're kidnapped and forced to compete. Unlike Angela, it's clear that Sasha was created with the intent of putting her in a romantic relationship with Ratchet. Between him asking her to marry him,
"Will you marry me?"
the joke about getting too handsy, Sasha being ready to confess her love at one point, everything points to it. Her crush on Ratchet is apparent early on in the game, and she's the only girl on this list to have kissed him in an explicitly romantic fashion. In addition, he also makes attempts to impress her, such as exaggerating the story of his fight against the Mama Tyrannoid. And though I can understand how one may think these interactions seem forced for that very reason, I still find it cute. Now for the score. Sasha was an absolutely essential supporting character, being the only member of the Q-Force who took her job as seriously as Ratchet. This gets her a 4 out of 5. Their interactions, being what they are, would normally get a 5, but I'll dock 1 point for the very obvious nature of it all. Here we have Hydro Girl from Deadlocked. Described as an aquatic adventuress, Hydro Girl was among the heroes captured and forced to participate in Dreadzone. There isn't much to say about Hydro Girl, as she was only briefly mentioned at the beginning of the game and featured in one cutscene at the end. However, according to unused dialogue, she was originally planned to be involved in a rescue mission on the planet Char. At a whopping 5 seconds of total screen time in only one game, Hydro Girl has the smallest amount of appearances of any girl on this list. And with that being the case, it's pretty much impossible to take anything from this. That unused mission would have at least given us something more to work with, but as it stands, all we have is vague flirting and a basic "maybe I will" response. Hydro Girl has absolutely nothing to do with the overall plot of Deadlocked, and is basically a background character. I wouldn't be surprised if even the biggest fans of that game forget she exists. That singular exchange at the end is all we get, and I'll give it a half point for Ratchet sorta acting like he's interested. Talwyn Apogee, daughter of famed explorer Max Apogee and captain of the Polaris Defense Force. First appearing in Tools of Destruction, Talwyn met Ratchet and Clank when they arrived on the Apogee space station in search of the Dimensionator, and upon realizing Ratchet was a Lombax, agreed to help them on their quest. She also played a major supporting role in Quest for Booty and Into the Nexus. She's skilled in combat, hacking, and has extensive knowledge of the Lombaxes. Talwyn and Ratchet's relationship stands out among the others for how natural it feels. They weren't immediately enamored with each other, and even after they became a couple, they didn't overdo it. You can tell they just enjoy being together. Even when apart, they're always in each other's thoughts. These instances, such as Talwyn dedicating songs to him on the radio in A Crack in Time.
We got a dedication here from a foxy young thing named Talwyn. Ratchet, please be careful and come home soon.
Or Ratchet wishing she could be with him to see the view on Savali and Rift Apart.
Wow. I wish Talwyn was here to see this.
Serve to further highlight the authenticity of their connection. The biggest issue with Talwyn is that, despite having the most screen time of any female character in the entire franchise, she lacks individual depth and development in her in-game appearances, and many people know her only as Ratchet's girlfriend. Because of that, I'll only give her a 4 out of 5. Her aforementioned natural chemistry with Ratchet gets her a 4.5, only docking half because she's never kissed him on screen. Vendra Prague, one of the villains of Into the Nexus. Another, known by many as the Space Witch, Vendra was the most dangerous outlaw in the Polaris galaxy, a criminal mastermind who sought to use Dimensionator technology to bring the Nether leader Mr. I into Ratchet's dimension. She's also responsible for the deaths of Talwyn's caretakers Kronk and Zephyr. As the primary antagonist, most of Vendra's interactions with Ratchet are unsurprisingly hostile, calling him weak for giving up on his quest to find the Lombaxes, refusing to listen to reason, and straight up trying to kill him, of course. And even after being betrayed by Mr. I and locked in the Netherverse, this doesn't change, as by the end, she still has a desire to be evil.
Can we still be evil?
No!
Being the main villain, Vendra is pretty important to the plot, but also because of that status, I'm docking 1 point. I'm pretty sure this was the sole reason anyone even thought about shipping these two in the first place, but there's also the fact to consider that their stories are parallels of each other, and I think that's what makes this pairing an interesting one. So I'll give it 1 point. Moving on, we have Cora Verilux from the 2016 movie and reboot/reimagining. The only female field agent of the Galactic Rangers, she helped Ratchet and Clank in their mission to stop Chairman Drek. A skilled and strong-willed combatant, Cora provided assistance on Battalia and Quartu and interrogated Zed into revealing Drek's next target. She had a no-nonsense personality and could be, as Ratchet put it,
Cranky.
What's that?
Cora's romance with Ratchet is as non-existent as it is with Al. Along with her partner Brax Lectress, her job was to train him as a Galactic Ranger, doing so by asserting her authority as his superior and even threatening to shoot him should he continue to pull reckless stunts. The closest we get to any sort of bonding moment is when she shows him her old cadet photo, and even that's grasping at straws. I feel like the only reason anyone thought they could have been a thing is because she vaguely resembles Talwyn. Is Cora important to the plot of the movie/reboot? Well, kind of. The Rangers are of course a big part of it, and she is a member of that team, but does she add anything of value? Not really, so I'm only giving her 2 points. Ratchet shows no interest in her whatsoever aside from in the role model sense, so they get no points here. And last but not least, the one you've all been waiting for, Rivet. Debuting in Rift Apart, Rivet is a female Lombax from an alternate dimension, said to be Ratchet's counterpart. She was a member of the Resistance fighting against Emperor Nefarious and his forces, and later teamed up with Ratchet and Clank to stop the dimensional cataclysm. When Rift Apart was announced, Rivet had a huge impact on the fandom, not the least of which saw them shipping her with Ratchet. I swear, you'd think Talwyn just didn't exist anymore with how this is going. I even ran 2 separate polls asking people who they thought the best love interest was, and Rivet took them both. But why? What made fans gravitate toward this couple?
Be careful out there.
That was apparently all it took for people to think these two were destined for each other. And when they do finally meet up in person, how does Ratchet react? He immediately comes to the conclusion that Rivet is another version of himself. And as for their interactions, a congratulatory high five, a heartfelt apology accompanied by a comforting hand on the shoulder. Say what you will, but I view this as nothing more than a bond rooted in a shared sense of identity. It's no secret that Rivet is important to Rift Apart's plot. Hell, most of it centers around her, which unfortunately in doing so takes a little of the focus off of Ratchet's side of the story, so I'll be giving her a 4.5 out of 5. For chemistry, it's a 2 out of 5. Just like with Angela, I see these interactions as platonic, but in this case there's even less to go by since the two are split up a good chunk of the time. Now time to take a look at the results. Of course, it comes as no surprise that Talwyn comes out on top with a score of 8.5. Despite lacking a character arc of her own, her genuine bond with Ratchet stands the test of time, and she's still with him to this day. Next is Sasha, who, overly romantic tendencies aside, still managed to be a great first canon love interest. In third and fourth place are Angela and Rivet, who I feel have been pushed with Ratchet by the fanbase simply because they're the same species. In fifth place is, shockingly, Vendra, completely going against this poll I took, but you have to admit that the concept of these two becoming an evil power couple is far more entertaining than a guy in a discount version of his girlfriend. And coming in dead last is Hydro Girl, but to be honest, had she been given the chance to be an actual character, I think her and Ratchet as a pairing would still make more sense than him and Cora. But what do you guys think? I tried to be as objective as possible, but of course, personal preferences will always play a part in these things, so give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. As always, don't forget to subscribe for more casual gaming content, and I will see you next time. Until then, this is Miharu, signing off.